Next is I have added an outline of where I want my flowers and hydrangeas. I'm just using a charcoal white pencil here, and I just did a circle for a hydrangea over here, and I did another circle here for a rose and another circle here for a rose. And this just gives me an idea of the size of the flower that I want. Now I want a lot of the stencil showing, but I'll be adding a lot of foliage. I've got 3 big leaves here, and I'll be adding other filler foliage out as we go whenever I start doing the painting. But this is just a little rough sketch you can put in, and you can arrange them any way you want to, and you can do them any size you want to. But it gives you an idea where you want to go, and that is always very helpful. Okay, I'm going to get my paints out and I'm going to start painting here pretty quick. Okay, we're back, and I am going to base coat my hydrangea. So I'm using a 3/4 inch flat brush here. I've dipped it in my water and blotted it out. I want to make sure it's blotted out pretty good because I'm on paper and I don't want to buckle the paper any more than what needs to be, because this paper is not a real thick paper. It's a thinner paper, so I have to be careful with it. So I have my colors out, and I put them out last night, and I put them on the Stay Wet, the Donna Dewberry Stay Wet palette. It has the sponge in it. See the sponge right there? Okay. And I got them all out, and I just went ahead and put saran wrap on, or not saran wrap, the press and seal, the Glad press and seal. It has a sticky back, and it will stick to your palette here, and then that way when you want to change colors or you don't want these anymore, you can just take it and peel it off, and you don't have to soak your palette tray in the sink overnight to get the paint out. So it's a little bit easier. So I have floating medium in here. I am going to use some yellow ochre on the top, and I will use some Pueblo in the middle, and I will use berry wine and maybe a little asphaltum on the bottom there. And all I'm doing is putting on a thin coat where I want the hydrangeas, which I want one of them right here. This is going to be the first coat. I'm actually going to do more than one coat on here because the black paper, I paint a little thinner, so the black paper kind of absorbs everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of coats on this. So let's get started. So I'm going to take some of the yellow ochre first. I'm just going to load my brush on both sides, and we're just going to slap this color on. I'm going to wipe it on a paper towel. Come over here. Going to add some of the Pueblo, and we're just going to butt this color up right next to the yellow ochre. And then I'm going to come into some of the berry wine, and I'm just going to slap some of that berry wine in there. Okay, now I can already see that yellow ochre, the yellows are really thin, so I'm going to go back into some yellow ochre, and I'm going to work that back down. Want it kind of ruffly on the edges there. Then I'm going to go into some asphaltum This is a thicker pure paint. I'm going to add a little bit of that asphaltum down on the bottom. Now mine is really, really thick. I don't even know if it's any good anymore. I got it whenever I was doing my large canvas certification, so mine kind of came out a little globby when I was putting it out. So okay, this, I'm gonna wipe my brush down. I'm not trying to do petals. I'm just putting in a base coat. That's all I'm doing. Okay, now what I want to do is set that aside. Okay, let me see if you can see that. I don't know if it's going to glare. Might have to set that up on my tilter on that. Now I don't want to do any of the roses or anything because I want to paint some of those wet and wet. But for this one here, I can put this brush in water here and pick up a filbert. This is a number 8 filbert. I have already dampened it, and I can come back now and I can soften some of these edges with a little bit of floating medium on it. Okay, so let's load a little bit of ochre. Just so we have some of the edges, and I'm just doing the edges right now. Don't want to get too crazy with it because I'm going to have other colors coming in here. Now I said I wasn't going to paint this, and I'm painting it. I get carried away on doing this, and I think, oh, well, and let's see, my hand is probably in the way. Let's get out of the way here. I'm trying to get this to where it's a little softer on the edges. These are pretty fall colors. I really like the colors. Dip in a little floating medium. Carry that floating medium out some. Okay, now I'm going to dip in a little berry wine. I'm going to blot some of that on my paper towel. Come into the floating medium and float some of those strokes on. I don't want it real distinct yet. This, I'm just flip-flopping my brush like that. Twisting it with these 2 fingers here. You can also tilt it with your wrist, but for me, it's better to do that. Okay, wipe the brush on a paper towel again. Come back in with some yellow ochre. And let's go ahead and do some yellow ochre with a little, let you see what I'm doing. Yellow ochre with a little bit of white. Okay, a little bit more white. Don't want it real white. Let's take some of that white over here. There we go. Now just lighten that up. Here and there. Now you can do a filbert stroke to where you place down and twist it on its side and do a little twisty and make little petals. I was originally just doing this for color, and then I was going to come back in, but it looks like I might just go ahead and complete this while I have it on camera. And it seems to be staying wet. Okay, a little bit more Let's make a few of these little petals. So you load your brush like that, flatten and twist, flatten and twist. See how I'm twisting the brush into a point? And you don't have to do all of them into points, just do some of them into a point. And then if you go into a lighter color, you might have to clean your brush a little bit. So let's do a little bit of yellow ochre and the white. Okay, now let's do a few petals up here. Now see, the more you put petals on the top, then it'll work into the other colors. Now I'm getting kind of tacky, so it's going to start pulling up with me here. Don't want that really to happen. Let's get some other color in here. There we go. I keep wanting to do the flippy floppies. Okay, now let me see what it looks like from up here. I'm getting a glare kind of up here. I'm going to go into some floating medium. Keep forgetting to put my palette under here so you can see what I'm doing. And I have some paint that's a little bit thinner for the outside edge so that it's a little transparent out there. I like that. I can come back with some tinier little petals, just reloading with some yellow ochre. There we go. As you come out here, just turn your brush on the side like that instead of the flat edge, and you can get some other little wispy petals. And I'm picking up white with a little yellow ochre. There, yeah. Now that's coming through. Okay. Little wispies. How's that looking? I'll tilt it up whenever I'm finished. Okay, going into some of the berry wine. Got some little petals out on the side here. Yeah. Now the rose, let me see if I can get down here, trying to stay out of your way. It's a little too light. Here, I like that color. I'm just pretty much trying to stay out of your way here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I think we're done on that. Let me set this aside and let me tilt this up. You can see it. There we go. I have a glare from my light up there. Now I can see a little bit of buckling in this paper here. I can see a little buckle right here. But anyway, you go ahead and let this dry, and hopefully it will flatten out a little bit once it's dry. Okay, so that is how I would do the hydrangea, but then I would come back in, and I do not see my kiss tool here, so I'm going to pick up my stylus, and let me get my palette right here beside me, and I would put in, let's try just some yellow ochre. I would come back and put in some little centers on the ones that look like they're full. Not all of them, but some of them that look like they're completed. I would just put a little center in there. Kiss tool does real good, but for some reason it must be over in my other tray over there. Put your little centers in. Let's see, let's do one right here. One right here. Maybe there's one tucked in under there. Okay, I may come back and redo some of these to a lighter color so you can see them a little better. Okay, that's what I would do for the hydrangea. So whenever we come back, we'll go ahead and start on our roses. We'll do this rose here. I may go ahead and do a few of these 2 leaves here. Might do these 3 leaves here because they're up and under, and I want the roses on the top. So when we come back, I'll go ahead and start the roses. Okay, see you in a few.